I'm a firm believer that Africa is the future. I think Africa is positioned to be a leader in the world when it comes to talent and youth talent.
Welcome to Supply Chain Now, the #1 voice of supply chain. Join us as we share critical news, key insights, and real supply chain leadership from across the globe, one conversation at a time.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Scott Luton and special co-host Clare Fincham here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's show. Clare, how you doing today?
Thank you, Scott. Great. Awesome to be on a podcast with you again. Feel very privileged. Thank you.
Same. And Clare, really quick, you're not going to be dodging any trees or anything, right? You've got some neighbors doing some critical work.
I checked that the life and the household insurances has been paid.
That is terrific. That's terrific. We're talking pre-show, folks. One of her neighbors is taking down a tree. So we hope we won't be interrupted. But folks, we got a terrific conversation here today. We continue our Supply Chain Leadership Across Africa series, which has been one really important component of our mission for years. We've had just some of the most extraordinary conversations as part of this series. And Clare, I've enjoyed hosting some of these with you and other members of the SAPICS team. And folks, we're going to continue. The hits keep on coming here today. We're going to be spotlighting sheer brilliance in leadership, innovation, and supply chain management across the continent of Africa. Today, we're going to be discussing key takeaways from the SAPICS Annual Conference 2025 held in Cape Town last June. We're going to be diving into the topic of global supply chain talent and some of the trends that we're seeing there. Of course, we'll talk leadership, but in particular, we're going to be sharing some examples of innovative leadership across Africa that other parts of the world could learn from. All that and much, much more. Clare, it should be a great show, huh?
Absolutely. And it's great to have everyone on this call with beautiful, young, clever people who are going to guide the way.
I like that. Clever is a great word. That's a great word. I hadn't used that in years. I'm going to steal that from you, Clare. But let me introduce our clever and brilliant guests here today. Nicole Petersen is a professional development and career strategist with over 2 decades of industry leadership experience, helping young talent bridge that gap between education and employment. Currently, she serves as a program manager of the South African Graduate Employers Association, where she leads the Quantify Your Future initiative. How about that? Empowering students in analytical fields to explore emerging career opportunities, pursue further education, and thrive in a rapidly changing world. Now, Nicole is joined by Yaseen Ahmid, who was recognized by Reuters as a 2024 future leader in supply chain. I would argue he's a current leader in global supply chain. Now, Yaseen is a South African entrepreneur and CEO dedicated to advancing circular economies across the continent, as well as advancing careers. A Drexel graduate that is now pursuing a master's in sustainability management at Columbia University. Yaseen also founded Luton, a resume review service that has supported over 750 clients in 40 countries. Man, let's welcome in Nicole and Yaseen. Nicole, how are you doing today?
I'm all good. And yourself? Thanks, Scott.
Wonderful. Great to have you here. And Yaseen, so great to reconnect with you too.
No, likewise. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation, Scott.
Clare, man, Nicole and Yaseen have been busy. Goodness gracious, piling up achievements and doing so much impact across global business, huh?
Absolutely. And it was really great that they were able to start their coordinated discussions at SAPICS this year. And Nicole mentioned to me she wished she'd had a couple of hours to share because there was so much that they wanted to say. So it's fantastic to be able to continue this conversation.
That is right. And folks, if you're listening or viewing to connect the dots there, Nicole and Yaseen were on this home run panel session as part of the great programming at SAPICS in Cape Town in June. So we'll touch on that probably here in a second. But I want to start with a fun warm-up question. That's how we do things around here. And I want to, all of us have had wonderful experiences, some more than others, in the beautiful city of Cape Town. And Nicole, I want to start with you because I think you're a current resident of Cape Town, so you really have inside knowledge. What is one of your favorite aspects of the Cape Town experience, and maybe one that folks don't know as much about?
So I think for me, it is going out on a Saturday morning early and walking on the Sea Point Promenade and not knowing whether you are in LA or in London or in New York or wherever. It's just absolutely world-class and beautiful. So that's really, really one of my most favorite things to do.
Oh, I love it. Sometimes I have that feeling elsewhere in the world. I don't know where I am and what I'm doing sometimes, but the scenery is remarkable. It is remarkable.
Absolutely gorgeous.
And if you catch the weather, I've been several times. The first time I went to Cape Town, the weather did not cooperate. It was very rainy like all week. But then this last time, it was just gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Now, Yaseen, Nicole's painted quite a picture already. What would you add about the Cape Town experience?
Yeah, I mean, on that point of if the weather's not fantastic, I mean, one of my favorites is the aquarium in Cape Town.
Okay.
They have a kelp forest that I just sit at for hours when I visit the aquarium. It's just incredibly serene and always brings me down to earth.
So I got to ask you, what is, out of all the exhibits and the fish and all the other animals, what's one exhibit there at the aquarium that fascinates you?
I mean, aside from the kelp forest, I really enjoy looking at the jellyfish. They've got these tanks where they hit them with different neon lights, and it's just very, very artistic in some sort of way.
I love it. I love it, man. I didn't even know that. I got to add that to my radar.
Really?
Claire, you've been holding out. You hadn't given me these inside tips at Cape Town. What's one of your favorites?
Next time you come, you're going to have to spend at least 2 more days. So aside from the wine farms, all right, we have to mention it, but I know you said unusual. So I like the Aranya Cirque, and I hope I've pronounced that right, Nicole, market, which takes place also near the V&A waterfront in a very lovely, pretty little bay with boats, and it really showcases the amazing talent that Cape Townians have for small businesses being creative, making food and jams and preserves and goods that you can buy and gifts and flowers and herbs. You can spend a lot of money. It's a very lovely outing and great breakfast afterwards.
I should have probably mentioned that is the only reason why I run, to go to Ranya's market afterwards for all the treats.
That makes so much sense, Nicole. And gosh, you had me at wine, though, Claire, if I'm being honest. You had me at wine on the front part of your response. But who doesn't love a wonderful market like that where local artisans can really share their superpowers in delicious ways? So I look forward to that next time I'm there in Cape Town. All right, so let's do this. I'm a big fan of context in this ever fast-moving world. We don't get enough of it. So I want to make sure folks kind of know a little bit more about each of y'all professionally and what your organizations do. So Nicole, tell us about yourself and what the SAGEA, which is the South African Graduate Employers Association, what the organization does.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for that, Scott and Claire. I don't know about young, if I've spent the last 20 years in the graduate and early career space, but I'll take it as a compliment. But definitely, just from a personal perspective, for me, it's helping young people figure out how their studies and their talents connect to real opportunities. So I don't know if that sounds like a real job, but thankfully, my CEO at SAGEA thinks that it is, and it's where we bring employers, universities, and students together. So in simple terms, we are a hub. We support employers who want to build talent at an early career level. And we also support students and universities by helping them understand what careers are out there, especially in the new and emerging space. We do research, insights, we host events, training and development opportunities, and we run initiatives like Quantify Your Future, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But essentially, we build bridges between students and opportunities, universities and employers, and ultimately between potential and possibility.
Nicole, I love that. And that is a very big job and a very big responsibility. And one of the things to call out to our audience members is you had a very successful business career in HR that I bet you draw on and I bet presents tremendous value to the students that you're guiding, huh?
Absolutely, because I know that I'm preparing them for the good, the bad, and the sometimes ugly. But it really formed a good foundation for me in terms of what is happening in the world of work, like honestly and realistically, and what should students be preparing themselves for outside of the textbook and the academic commitments that they have.
Love that. Claire, man, Nicole's passion just jumps out of the screen. I wish I had a Nicole back in my early parts of my journey when I didn't know where I was going, didn't know what I was doing. Claire, huh?
Absolutely, Scott. When I first met Nicole, and we had a fantastic conversation to see how SAPICS and SAGEA could work together, I was like, goodness gracious, did I miss that at university, this wonderful guidance? And she's given me some great ideas of how we can help our students at SAPICS as well. So I'm very grateful for the relationship.
Love it. Another example of the power of the SAPICS ecosystem, folks. If you're not plugged in, you're missing out. Yaseen, it's amazing what you have done already. And I know you just had made a big move back to kind of fuel your next chapter. We might touch on that in a second. But tell us a little more about yourself and the cool things that Luna has been doing.
Yeah, of course. Happy to share. So, was born in Johannesburg, South Africa. Ventured over to the US in 2018 for my undergrad degree. Pursued a triple major in supply chain management and logistics, finance, and business analytics at Drexel University, R1 Research University in Philadelphia. Made the move back post graduation to work in management consulting at a company called Carney, specializing in strategic operations and supply chain. Did a lot of projects in mining, oil and gas, did some engagements with some government entities in the Middle East, and then obviously decided to make the move back to the US to pursue my master's degree. But during that time, I started a business called Luna, which specializes in personalized resume reviews for young students, for professionals. And I mean, we've made significant impact over the past year. I mean, just this year, we've helped over 250 students. And, we are opening up our doors, not just to young professionals and students, but just to later professionals as well, people that have been in industry for 10, 15 years. I think we've delivered exceptional results, and we use minimal touch with AI, which I think is really changing our approach and our results. Yeah.
You see, I love that. It sounds like you use a very effective blend of AI and technology and the human expertise, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, definitely. I think with the emergence of generative AI and with these programs that you're able to auto-generate a resume with your inputs, I think it's really stealing away that kind of personality from your document, right? I think we find a lot of our clients coming to us and, experiencing an immediate impact after using our services. So yeah, I think your resume should really speak to your story. It should reflect you as a person, and it shouldn't really be a robot spitting words back onto paper.
Well said. Completely agree. It needs to be human and a great representation of your human superpowers. Claire, did you hear Yaseen? Triple major. I had a big time problem with one major in school, and he's over here killing it with a triple major. Your thoughts, Claire?
When I first met him, I realized that he is a very smart guy, and we're very pleased to have him as a SAPICS member, and he was an ambassador for a while for us. But I agree and love the concept of the CVs. I think it should be a dynamic document that you almost update even if you're not looking for employment, sort of every 6 months, because you're busy learning stuff and building up your own body of knowledge, and why not put it on the paper? So well done, your business, Yaseen, and all the best with that.
Agreed.
Thanks, guys. I'm blushing right now.
So really quick, I teased something, but you just had a big move. Would you like to share kind of what you're doing now before we talk SAPICS conference?
Of course. Is this to the advisory board, or is this to
the big move to Columbia, right? Have I got that right, Yaseen?
Right. Yeah. So recently, just made the move back to New York to pursue my master's degree in sustainability management at Columbia. So I'll be in New York up until next year in December, and then fingers crossed we find a job and stay in New York.
So how did you manage the logistics successfully in that move?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately enough, had been through the whole process with my undergrad finding apartments. So that was really fortunate to have a support network here in the US that, was able to visit some apartments in person for me, because some of those listings that were online were completely different in person. But yes, happy. We're all successful with the move thus far.
Good. We're going to get some pictures. Look forward to congrats on the move. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about the SAPICS Annual Conference 2025, which again was held in June. And Nicole, actually, I want to start with you. Again, y'all had a great panel session. I hated I had to miss it, but as Claire had mentioned, we had our work cut out for us that day. But y'all had rave reviews on this panel session. Y'all did. But whether it's key takeaways from that panel session or just from the conference in general, because I don't know about y'all, I had like 3 pages of real powerful moments. Yeah, Nicole, what comes to mind about a key takeaway or two?
I think for me, logistically, the first thing I did was when I left, I called my boss and I said, these people know how to put a conference together because we've got one coming in November. And then I think apart from being on the panel with such esteemed guests and having such good feedback and energy and engagement from our audience, it was very cool visiting the exhibitors in terms of it not being a career fair. So I wasn't going there looking for a job. I was actually going there and finding out what are they doing, how are they contributing, and just learning from the exhibitors. I didn't have a lot of time to visit the other sessions, but those for me are the two takeouts. At SAPICS know how to put a conference together at scale and being able to engage with the exhibitors that were really passionate about their fields and how they contribute to the industry at large.
Nicole, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And Claire, I'll get you a comment before we get Yaseen's key takeaway. If I had one word that I could choose very judiciously and apply it to my experience at the SAPICS conference, I think Nicole nailed it. It's passion. You meet some of the most passionate leaders that are on noble missions. This might sound cheesy, but they're truly changing the world, and it's palpable. Claire, your quick comment, sir.
I always wish that the SAPICS conference was about 4 days long, 5 days long, because I can never do everything that I want to do and listen to and meet and digest and connect. And we have to pack it into 2.5 days. You're absolutely right. Uphaven, our conference management company, do a fantastic job of arranging our conference for us. And I love the passion. I could feel the vibe this year in my body with everybody talking and smiling and engaging. And when you're hosting a conference, that's really what you want. Obviously, there's other ways we can do things and we can do things differently. But essentially, I think we've got a good product, and we are very grateful to all of the people who support us around our conference.
Agreed. It's a great representation of the powerful community that SAPICS has been building for a long time. And folks, we need to make it like the Olympics, 2 weeks long, and then we'll have all the discussions we need, all the actions, all the follow-up to-do lists, and all the wonderful, fun things to do. Markets, aquariums, get outdoors, 2 weeks. So that's the challenge, Claire, okay? So, all right. So Yaseen,
I'm going to need a lot of energy and Powerade to get through those 2 weeks, I reckon.
maybe next year, right? Maybe next year. Yaseen, your key takeaways from the SAPICS Annual Conference experience this year.
Yeah, I think, just to double down on what Nicole said, I think during the curation process of bringing these stakeholders together on this panel, it was really a thoughtful process of how can we get everyone from along the value chain, the talent value chain, on the same stage and engaging in a meaningful conversation to drive toward an impactful solution. Right. I'm sure we've all been to conferences where it's just a mishmash of people on stage where there's not really a clear and, evident direction. So I'm really happy that we were able to bring stakeholders from industry, from academia, from governing and reporting agencies like SAGEA to drive towards this hypothesis that we originally had at the beginning of the year, which is there a talent gap? Right. And I think, post-conference, and I'm sure Nicole, Claire, and a lot of the other, attendees in our sessions with that, it is evident there is a supply chain talent gap in South Africa. And, happy to advance this discussion and see what we discovered later on.
Yes. And we're going to talk about talent next in just a second. So that's a good call out. But Claire, some of the words he used there, impactful. These are folks that are gathered at SAPICS that are making true impact around global industry and, of course, across Africa. The connections, the meaningful connections. I mean, this is one manifestation of the connections we're making at events like SAPICS. And then one last thing he touched on, amongst other things, is all the diverse sectors and industries and people that you find. And we got to really lean in. Diversity is a superpower indeed, and it powers innovations every day. Claire, your thoughts. Let's get your comments on Yaseen's key takeaways, and then I want to get your own key takeaways from SAPICS, Claire.
Well, Yaseen absolutely nailed it and talked about the gaps and the challenges. And I am now going to leap into my takeaway,
okay,
which is post the conference, actually, is the discussions that we've had with women in supply chain discussions, these discussions, Nicole and I had a meeting, the meetings we've had at the universities with SMEs that started at the conference. For me, the takeaway of the conference is to continue the conversations. Because as previously mentioned, there's not enough time. You've got to keep on going. We always say, okay, so what? Thank you for being on the stage. So what?
Yep.
It's very important to translate that into actions and to use bodies like SAGEA and SAPICS and all the others that we work with to make sure that we are supporting industry in these important discussions.
Claire, that's a great call out. And I would just, to all of our audience members out there, I think keeping that so what between our ears, especially as we make investments of time and resources into all the events out there, that so what factor is an important one to choose, to help us choose where to spend that precious finite resources. So Claire, excellent point. And I tell you, there's a handful of conferences like SAPICS that I think drives a lot of post-event action, and that is so good for industry. Okay, let's shift over to talent. We've got a lot of passion and expertise around talent in general and supply chain talent here on this edition of Supply Chain Now. So let's dial it in on this vital topic, this critical topic in any industry, but certainly global supply chain, where, as Yaseen mentioned, there are some gaps that we've got to bridge better, build better bridges. We must, and time is of the essence. So Nicole, share with us some of the trends that your organization, SAGEA, is that how we say it?
SAGEA, any one of the two. It's your call.
Tomato.
Something
SAGEA,
like that.
what are some of the trends you are seeing, especially across the supply chain sector in South Africa, talent trends?
I'm going to focus on 4 key ones. Of course, there's many more, but the first really positive change that we've seen is the growth in numbers from our member employers who recruit supply chain graduates. Those have doubled since 2023. We anticipated this growth, but we're delighted to see that it's finally landing, because this means they are now really serious about building pipelines and prioritizing early talent. The second one we've seen was quite a surprise, because we run this research on an annual basis. For the first time in 21 years, our data shows that supply chain vacancies in terms of young talent has overtaken audit, ICT, legal and finance in terms of the number of unfilled graduate vacancies for 2025. So this clearly shows that there's a growing demand and a growing gap. Thirdly, which I don't think is unique to the supply chain industry, but we're definitely seeing a disconnect between what graduates bring and what employers need in 2025. So many roles combine technical skills with customer-facing or UX elements. And we know with UX elements and those sort of things, they're harder to teach quickly, and they usually come with lots of experience. So that combination of mismatch we're seeing. And then finally, which I think, again, I'm preaching to the converted, that in terms of the emphasis on sustainability and the green economy, our members are looking for grads who can adopt this ethos and understand the importance of supply chain. And the problem is this is not inherently built into our traditional degree programs yet. So those are the 4 key things that we are seeing in the young talent supply chain space as of 2025.
Nicole, man, we could spend that's a podcast per each of those 4 for sure. And I bet folks, if they go to your website, they can probably get some reporting and some additional thoughts on each of those 4 trends. Yaseen, get your thoughts on those four big topics. What stood out the most to you?
Yeah, I think similar sentiments to that congregation of panelists, right? I think it's evident that there is a misalignment between industry, what industry is expecting, and what is actually being taught in the classroom, right? And I think that Claire mentioned it before, there needs to be this active and intentional engagement between these academic institutions, industry, and agencies like SAGEA to drive towards solutions to align those academic offerings with what is really being requested and looked for within industry. And I think the sooner the better, or else we're going to continue to see those numbers rise of unfilled vacancies in the supply chain sector.
That's right. And it will hinder our global industry's growth and innovation and success. And, I had a very brilliant person, a lot smarter than me, make a comment to me the other day. Nicole, on that last one, the importance of global supply chain is kind of one of the big themes there, and ensuring that students really kind of wrap their head around the big picture component. There's so many moving pieces, upstream and downstream. I had a very brilliant person make this comment the other day that supply chain is such a niche topic. And it stopped me in my tracks, because I thought humanity has learned, especially since the pandemic, of just how important global supply chain is in everything, in almost anything we touch, consume, every component of our daily life. Mm-hmm. And that really, it goes right to your number 4 key takeaway. We still have jobs to do and heavy lifting to do to make sure we connect what global supply chain does in all of its various ways with consumers and folks not in industry. Claire, those 4 things. So to recap those, see if I got those right. The good news with growth in numbers, Nicole, it's doubled since 2023. That's wonderful. But to your second one, the vacancies in supply chain has overtook all the other sectors for the first time in 21 years. You talked about the gap in the skill sets. That's very common. A lot of other research we've seen and talked about. And of course, the importance and the critical role that our industry serves and making sure we communicate that. Claire, of those 4, your thoughts?
Absolutely. I agree with all of them. And I want to encourage people to be in supply chain management, because I think they'll always find a job. And the jobs report that I read said that supply chain careers are expected to grow by 21% in 2030. So that mirrors what Nicole was saying. It's really a global demand for people who are able to manage risk and resilience in businesses. So that really is talking to what Nicole is actually experiencing.
That's right. That's a good call out, Claire. Yaseen, one quick follow-up. I got another question that we're going to talk about case study-wise with Nicole and you in just a minute. But going to our third point, that gap in the skill sets. Now, it's been a long time since I built a resume. I'm not even going to tell you how long it's been, all right? You'll date me. But my hunch, and I'd love for you to weigh in, Yaseen, and with your expertise, is as folks out there, this might be a learning moment for some of our folks in the job market right now, as they identify roles that they really want, and they really study what the organization is looking for. That's a terrific opportunity to really tailor that resume so it screams how they're a great fit for that opportunity. Would you agree with that, Yaseen?
No, completely. And I think it's one of the biggest issues that we encounter with our clients is that they're not tailoring their resume to specific roles. I mean, you could group specific, you could have a resume that's applicable to maybe 4, 5, or 6 roles, but then you should change your resume if it's changing industry or if it's changing position. It is really specific to the ATS that's being requested from that company. So I completely agree. I mean, you should tailor your resume to that specific role. They're looking for different skills. They're looking for different competencies. They want you to highlight specific, instances of impact in certain areas. I mean, if you're applying to multiple roles with just one resume, I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why you're not receiving feedback.
Folks, that is $1 million advice, because so many folks out there, they build it and they blast it, right? Build and blast, and it's not tailored. And that's one of the reasons, whether they're human reviewers or technology reviewers, there's a lot of that, they're skipping right over. Right. So don't do that. Follow Yaseen's advice and hey, get his help too. All right. So Nicole, let's talk about this really interesting case study that researched from the banking industry. And I think this offers some key lessons learned and some ideas for building the supply chain workforce. I can't wait to hear what else you're going to share, Nicole. Tell us.
Great. So here's the story of Quantify Your Future, or QIF as what it's locally known. And I want to do it in the analogy of supply chain, but only instead of goods, the product here is graduates or young talent. So on the one end, we've got raw materials. We've got school learners, we've got university students, we've got young professions, graduates with strong mathematical analytical abilities. And on the other end, we've got demand. Banks, insurers, fintech, everybody across the board saying, we need quantitative scientists, we need data scientists, we need skills that didn't even exist 5 to 10 years ago. But sadly, in South Africa, the math pipeline is broken. Fewer learners are taking math, fewer are making it into university, into these highly sought after degrees, and even fewer are graduating into these roles. Isn't that just the classic bottleneck? So what did we do? We built QIF as an ecosystem. Employers gave us the demand signals and funding. This is what we need, and here are where the gaps are. Universities became the production hubs, and students, most of them first gen, finally got visibility of careers that they've never even heard of or considered. So we ran virtual internships, school outreach programs, innovation showcases, future skills forums, where we actually brought senior academia and senior leaders around the same table, all designed to connect the dots. And like a supply chain, we kept tracking, we kept listening, and we kept adjusting. And what was the result? Flow. So instead of the talent leaking out of the pipeline, we created pathways where students actually transitioned into these critical roles. And for me, that's the magic. So whether you're moving products or people, the same principle applies. Collaboration, visibility, and a joined-up system.
I love that, Nicole. You see, when you hear that case study and the critical elements of it that Nicole just walked us through, your thoughts?
I think the important part, or something that jumped out to me there, is that it actually worked, right? I think that there was a constant pipeline, and I think that there's constant output of students that were getting placed, right? I think we like to plan, we like to kind of structure these programs, and I think that it demonstrates significant impact and that it actually had a tangible result is words of wonder to me.
Yeah, well said. And I would just add to that the closed loop component of that case study, Nicole, because as we all know, Claire, Yaseen, and Nicole, few things in life work as you publish it, they stay in static form. That closed loop where you're constantly getting feedback and then going back and improving various elements. And so it's more dynamic, and it can react dynamically to the ever-moving market and the voice of the customer, so to speak. Critical. But I'm preaching to the converted. And I stole that phrase from you, Nicole. I love it. I usually say preaching to the choir, but that sounds so much more eloquent, Nicole. So I'm going to start using it. Claire, talk to, if you would, that case study.
Yes, absolutely. So just echoing your comments and sentiments, the fact that they achieved it and that they adapted it to suit the market and the needs of the employers, the needs of the employees. I mean, that is just such a phenomenal supply chain. It's a perfect case study and example of something that's working, and also highlights the fact that supply chain is an absolutely everything in our lives.
Well said. It is so true. And the outcome, to your point, Claire, and what all three of y'all really have spoken to, outcomes. It goes back to the so what. If we're not producing the outcomes that we need to and moving the needle, what are we doing? We're contributing more muda and wasting a whole bunch of people's time, and amongst other things. And we all know time is in limited supply. This short life we're in. Okay, good stuff. Yaseen, I want to switch gears for a minute. Let's talk about another case study. I don't know when you get any sleep, because you stay on the move. You got a bunch of things going on. So you worked at Drexel University in their supply chain advisory board. And I think a lot of your work was helping to connect, or maybe address the disconnect between academia and industry, which is kind of one of the things we're kind of talking through here today. But tell us more, Yaseen.
Yeah, of course. Happy to share. So, I mean, on the context of the Drexel Supply Chain Advisory Board, it was last year in December, was visiting New York to visit campus, but also was invited by Reuters on the back of that 2024 nomination and recognition that I made the rounds in Philadelphia, connected with professors, with past colleagues, but I set up a session with the dean of the LeBeau College of Business to propose this idea of establishing a supply chain advisory board, detailed out the mission, how it would function, just lay out the entire plan and give him, like minimal lift on his side and let me direct this initiative. And so throughout the beginning of this year, I worked with bringing together industry stakeholders from the Philadelphia region, from the New York region, and as well as New Jersey, to find C-suite professionals that are committed to improving their pipeline of talent into their businesses. So I was able to bring together 16 industry stakeholders to, number one, align Drexel's academic offerings with what's really being requested and required from these employers. And then secondly, build closer relationships with these employers to improve the touch points that they have with our students, right? Having speaker sessions in our lectures, spotlighting their companies on campus, just having more touch points with students at an earlier stage in their development. And I'm sure Nicole can attest to this, but I think in South Africa, students really only start their job search much later. And I'm sure SAGEA does have that information to back that up. But students really only start their job search and those relationships with companies maybe in their third or their fourth year.
Half of them, I've got the stat. So 50% of them do it in there and the rest do it prior to. So you're spot on.
No, exactly. And I think, there is evidence to suggest that the outcome of your, like your applications or, getting a job post-graduation are much more successful if you start those relationships much earlier on. So this is an active attempt, like we've mentioned in the conversation, to really bring industry closer to academia. And I mean, we had our first kickoff session last week, Thursday, with the advisory board members in person. And I mean, the outcomes have just been fantastic. We ran through our core curriculum, our core classes, our elective classes. And I mean, the feedback that we were able to gather just in an hour and a half's worth of a session has just been invaluable.
Amazing.
Well, all right. So lots of things here. Number one, Claire, I love how a lot of his work and the gap they've identified and the outcomes driving work they're doing goes right back to Nicole's third key takeaway, the gap in the skill sets. It exists everywhere around the world. Blessed be the ties that bind, but this is not a good tie. We got to fix it. And then secondly, I think for folks in the job market, whether you're in school or early or late career, whatever, I think two key things that Yaseen spoke to is we got to plan much earlier. We can't wait till you're a senior in college like I did to start thinking about what we want to do. You can do that, but you're probably going to have less opportunities. And number two, being more targeted. I tell you, I wish if I could tell myself a couple things, it'd be a long list. When I was in school, if I had really worked hard to identify what I wanted to do in this career and really at least had some initial thoughts as a freshman, that would have guided my experiences and what I chose to spend my time and classes I took. It'd have been so much more better. And I would have jumped out of graduation probably where I wanted to be in that first couple of years afterwards. So Claire, whether it's any of that or the case, actually, Nicole, let's get you to comment first, and then we'll go to Claire on Yaseen's case study.
I think I've got a prime example of that where I was studying a commerce degree to qualify as an industrial psychologist.
Okay.
And I had to do a compulsory internship during my master's year. And I came back after 2 weeks to my supervisor and lecturer and said, I never want to see another psychometric test in front of me in my life. So had I done that in first year, I would have probably pivoted. So again, planning early and having a targeted approach. And that's why I say I enjoy the work that I do, because I can start planting those seeds a lot earlier than what we had. And I think, Yaseen, to your point, absolutely amazing that you could get so many people face to face in a room. And that was the key for us as well. Obviously, during COVID, we tried to do it virtually, getting the academics and C-suite. And the minute in 2022, we got them all in a room, it made such a difference, because now we were singing off the same hymn sheet. We were understanding what we want. And we realized it takes a village to build this industry. And it's not an us and them, it's an us and us.
Well said, Nicole. And what you're speaking to, I believe, is Yaseen getting those 16 industry leaders all together in person, which was fuel for a lot of the outcomes that they were able to establish. Claire, you were about to say hallelujah, I think, on what Yaseen and Nicole have been sharing. Your thoughts?
Just to commend Yaseen on his amazing initiatives in his life that he's doing, and happy to share any of this amazing work with the SAPICS community, of course, when you're ready. But so important to loop industry in, trying to do it at SAPICS to say, what do you want from our education program, for example, which is obviously post-grad. But it's so important to just keep on talking. And I love the us and us.
I agree. And I got to find a note I took from an interview the other day, but Nicole, I think one other thing to call out, it's really important, folks, to identify what we want to do. And like Nicole said, what we don't want to do. That's really important too. I interviewed Lucinta the other day, and there was a great methodology she shared with me, and I'm going to have to find. I am because we are. I might be getting that wrong, but I am
Yes.
because we are. The power of community and the power of the connectedness. And I tell you, it bears its fruit in a number of different ways, but especially when it comes to career development and finding opportunities, that's a very powerful force to lean into. And once you find those opportunities, to help others find them. Okay, one more thing, Yaseen, before we talk leadership, because you've got a late breaking news update. What are you up to now?
Yeah, I'm really, really happy to share that I'm working with an institution back home in South Africa to replicate a supply chain advisory board that really, again, brings together industry stakeholders to align those academic offerings and to bring those employers closer with a real powerhouse in supply chain education. And, just to double down on what Claire and Nicole have said, it's about establishing and it's about really refining a value proposition between both parties, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think you can expect to bring so many people to the table without some sort of shared value and shared mission. So It's been very important and have been very intentional and clinical in how we approach employees to get them on board and to really believe in where we want to take these initiatives. So, happy to share with your community, later down the line once we establish this advisory board, but excited to get started and super appreciative of the support that we've had back home in South Africa thus far.
Love it. I look forward to getting updates on all of y'all's continued journeys, but very cool. Making the world and making global supply chain better for all, and including helping everybody find opportunities. So let's talk leadership, because that's a really big, I think, responsibility and charge for successful leaders out there. What are you doing for others? When you think of innovative leadership examples across the continent of Africa, and those examples that can teach other leaders in other places around the world, what comes to mind, Nicole?
I'm probably going to give my online shopping habits away here, but for me, it's a local grocery delivery app. We call it the biggest biker gang in South Africa because they come zipping past you with your goods within 60 minutes, which went from pilot to a national supply chain disruptor in record time. And what they managed to do is they cracked the last mile logistic in South Africa and force the entire retail sector to rethink e-commerce. And if that's not leapfrogging, then I don't know what is. And the other kicker for me is one of the recent World Economic Forum reports state that by 2050, half of the world's working age population will be African.
Wow.
So the resilience and the collaboration that we are doing here isn't just local, but it will be a playbook for all leaders across the world very soon.
Nicole, that is remarkable. Did you say by 2050?
By 2050, 2050, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Good stuff, Nicole. And I like that biker gang. We can learn from biker gangs out there. Yaseen, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think just to emphasize what Nicole said there, I think I'm a firm believer that Africa is the future. I think Africa is positioned to be a leader in the world when it comes to talent and youth talent. But a previous guest that you had on Supply Chain Now, Professor Sibongile, I'm an advocate for entrepreneurship. I'm fortunate that my parents ran their own business growing up, and running my own business now. I think the soft skills that you develop in entrepreneurship, right? Communication, collaboration, teamwork, being able to function under pressure, presentation skills. Those are all soft skills that I implore our clients at Luna to really demonstrate on their document, because like Nicole, I'm sure can back up with SAGEA's information, that is what employers are looking for. Yeah. You can teach hard skills, you can teach technical skills, but having those learned soft skills from, activities like entrepreneurship that Professor Sibongile is really advocating for within her curriculum and her classes, is inspiring to me. And I wish her well and continue her work.
She's brilliant. And it was great to sit down with her at SAPICS in Cape Town. So great call out, Yaseen. Claire, we need another hour or two in this conversation here, I think. But your thoughts on leadership examples?
I'm keeping it a little bit sort of local, but the SAPICS board members for me have shown such amazing leadership skills, not only in their own work, such as Tato at Maersk and MJ at Lego and Johnson & Johnson and Karen Pretorius, with their own company. But Kamahelo Mapani is an ex-SAPICS board member, and he is the chairman of the Pan-African Supply Chain Council. I'm a Pan-Africanist, having been born in Zimbabwe and married to a Zambian. So I love discussions that go further than the South African borders. He's done great work, but there are so many. And to Nicole's point and to your point, we talked about this in our Young Professional Conference earlier in the year. Ubuntu meaning I am because you are.
Yes.
It talks to supply chains. If I'm not doing well in my department, you can't be doing well in your department. So let's all just collaborate and make sure we're one thing and one flow. And I went off track there a little bit, Scott, as usual. Sorry.
That's okay.
But that's enough from me.
Hey, I didn't know that about your background, Claire. And it's such a great comment, the regional element of your comment. You know, I think all too often, and well, I'll ask each of y'all, all three of you, when you say Africa, do a lot of the folks from in other parts of the world think of like just one big continent and not all the communities and countries and different cultures? Do y'all all find that in common?
I think it's same like the US. People say, are you going to the US? Okay, which state are you? What are you going to do? It's a similar analogy, Scott.
That's a great point, because California and South Carolina are very different. What was that, Claire?
When somebody says I'm going to Atlanta, I say, oh, do you know Scott Luton?
And they all say, no. I tell you, Atlanta's growing left and right. I tell you what, we can see it in the traffic. All right. So Claire and Nicole and Yaseen, I really enjoyed y'all's perspective here today. It's a very actionable conversation. It really is. And I just want to pick on one more thing that Yaseen said there that I bet we can all agree on, is the power of storytelling. I think we've talked a lot to the job seekers that may be tuned in our audience, and I love that. I wish I'd heard a lot of this perspective back in my day when I was in the market. But folks, really invest in your ability to tell your own story and tell the various chapters in your journey. Because I can't remember the data. There's all kinds of data. But if you're able to convey whatever you're trying to achieve and communicate in story form, the ability to actually successfully communicate that and it influence minds and decisions goes dramatically off the chart. So think about how you tell stories. So Claire, as we start to wrap, we're going to make sure folks know how to connect with everybody. But I got two questions for you, Claire. Number one, what's the next big event coming up at SAPICS? And what was one of your favorite things you heard here from Nicole and Yaseen?
Let me start with your second question. I think to your point about people telling their own stories, because companies are looking beyond the technical skills. We know that we have great universities that can offer that, but people are looking for a lot more soft skills, emotional intelligence, and you have to find a way, and Yaseen can help you with that, to be able to convey that in your CV and in your interviews. And people are looking for agile people, agile professionals to adapt to the various supply chain changes. So yes, SAPICS.
Yes, please.
So SAPICS is 60 next year. Very exciting. We big celebrations, and so we've got a lot of events happening to celebrate the fact that we have been, which we would want supply chains to be, have strong longevity and good sustainability. So that's really kind of our theme for 2026. And we have lots of different events which our SAPICS community will hear about, such as golf days and a Johannesburg event, etc. We continue with our work with young professionals, with women and young executives. And our annual conference, the 48th conference celebrating our 60th year, will be in July 2026 in Cape Town.
Outstanding. July.
Thank you for letting.
You
yes,
bet.
it's pushed out a month.
Claire, I love it. And I was definitely going to call that out because I think it's been in June for quite some time. I think the July move was a great move. And it's going to really free up, I think, a lot of calendars. So hopefully we'll see a lot more folks celebrating SAPICS 60th anniversary next year. That is remarkable. I'm gonna save y'all's eardrums and not sing happy birthday. So let's do this. What a great conversation. Really enjoyed it today. Nicole Petersen, Program Manager with the South African Graduate Employers Association. I think, folks, you can learn more at, check me if I'm right here, Nicole, sagea.org.za. I get that right, Nicole?
absolutely. And on LinkedIn, of course, we're quite active there in terms of our sharing.
Outstanding. And that's the best way to reach you via either the website or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Outstanding. Nicole, great to meet you here today. Really enjoyed your perspective. Yaseen Ahmid, founder and CEO with Luna and a whole bunch more stuff. Yaseen, how can folks connect with you?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, or they can check out our website, which is luna-resume.com.
It's just that easy. Really good. It's amazing what you're doing across the globe, helping folks. Well, really, both of y'all, Yaseen, Nicole, and you, Claire, helping folks find opportunities, get better at what they do, and just succeed in this journey. So love it. Clare Fincham with SAPICS. Great to see you again. Love this conversation here today. How can folks track you down?
Thank you, Scott. sapics.org.za and on LinkedIn. And just take this opportunity to thank you and your team for hosting this and giving Nicole and Yaseen a platform to showcase their amazing work. We're grateful for the partnership. Thank you.
You bet. Amazing is the right word. It really is. I've got 1,000 ideas after the last hour with all three of y'all. But to our audience, hey, hopefully you enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. I've had a blast here, learning a lot from our incredible panel. But you got homework. Yes, like it's back in college or grade school. Your challenge is to take one thing from what you heard here from Yaseen, Nicole, or Claire. Just one thing. There's lots more. But take one thing, put it into action, share it with your team. We all know by now, certainly by now, it's all about deeds, not words. What are you doing? And how are you addressing the so what question, right? All of that's how we continue to transform global business and provide opportunities for all. So on behalf of the whole team here at Supply Chain Now, Scott Luton challenging you to do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And we'll see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Join the Supply Chain Now community for more supply chain perspectives, news, and innovation. Check out supplychainnow.com, subscribe to Supply Chain Now on YouTube, and follow and listen to Supply Chain Now wherever you get your podcasts.